right, so the agenda for today, we're going to talk about preparing for finals. So making sure how we can get everything organized to make sure that we are, that we're aware of everything that's going on. And then we'll discuss some different study strategies so that we know how to prepare for our finals. And then since you're a captive audience, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Learning Center as well. So I'm going to start with this quote because I think it's really important when thinking about finals. Before anything else, preparation is the key for success. And I recognize that this is really cheesy, but I think that it is true, right? We need to make sure that we are prepared in order for us to succeed in what we're doing. We need to make sure that we get organized, have everything that we need, we know what resources we have available to us, and then take advantage of those. All right, so I want us to all think about these different questions. We don't have to share answers to these because they are a little bit more personal. But have you prepared, right? So it is technically kind of last week was a little bit of finals. This week is a little bit of finals. Next week is the legit finals week, right? But hopefully we've spent some time preparing already because we want to make sure that we are studying throughout the entire unit and the whole semester rather than just waiting and cramming at the end. So the first bullet point, it says for a medium difficulty class, we should be studying a minimum of 2 hours each week per class. So if you do the math, if you're taking 15 credits, you're in 5 classes, we should be studying about 30 hours a week outside of class. This definitely has some ebb and flow to it. We might have some weeks where our courses don't require much of us, and we don't have to put in 2 hours per credit hour that we're taking. But there might be other weeks that it's a lot heavier, right? That we have a test in every single class, or we have big projects that are due that require a lot more than just the 30 hours from us. So kind of averaging it out, if you think, are we spending about 30 hours a week on our courses? Are we putting in the time and effort that is required for us to do well in our classes? Or are we just kind of skating by and trying to cram and memorize things at the end? So just kind of ruminate on that one a little bit. Next one, do you know when and where your finals are taking place? Especially with classes being online, we might be using different platforms to take our tests. It might be that our tests are open for the entire week. It might be that they're only open for a couple hours on a specific date. So making sure that we are aware of when and where our finals are so that we can be there, be on time, take our time, and do well on them. Do you have a studying plan set up for your finals? Do you know when you're going to study, or are you kind of just winging it and throwing some stuff together? I think it's super important for us to set out exact times when we're going to study. So saying I'm going to study from 4 to 5 on this date, I'm going to study from 1 to 3 on this date. And then also setting specific goals, right? This is how I'm going to study for this class, and this is what it's going to look like, and this is how I know when I'm done. Do you know how to balance all of your finals? So sometimes in our classes, we're going to have multiple tests at the same time. But of course, finals is when everything gets dumped on us at one time, right? We have something that's expected from us from almost every single class, if not every single class. So making sure that we know how to balance all of that stuff at the same time so that we don't feel like we're drowning in all of our classes. And then the last one, are you caught up on all your assignments and prepared to study and complete assignments at the same time? I know that it is the last week of classes, so we might not have many assignments left, but this is especially true for the past few weeks. We're hopefully starting to study and get things going. So are we prepared to balance that with having to do our course assignments and do regular work at the same time? So just some things to kind of think about as we start talking about preparing for finals. Ruminate on those for a little bit and think how we're preparing. Before every test, I think it's great to ask yourself some questions so that you can best prepare for that specific test. So this is just a list of questions that we can think through. So for each of your tests, think, what is the format? Is this going to be a multiple choice test? Is it going to be an essay test? Is it going to be true, false? Is it short answer? A mixture of a little bit of everything. By knowing the format of the test, that can help us study better. So if it is going to be a true, false test, I know that I need to know my definitions. I know that I need to know simple statements and be able to recognize if they're right or wrong. If it's an essay test, I know I should probably study by practicing some different essays. I should give myself some prompts. I should check out, you know, different essays that we might have had in that class before, or something like that. Next, how many questions are there? So if your test is 10 questions long, it's probably gonna be some really broad stuff over the whole unit, right? Because if you spend a whole month talking about a topic and you only have 10 questions about it, it's probably gonna be bigger, right? But if it's something that you have like 100 questions on a test, it might be very specific details about stuff because there's so many questions that we can ask about that information. So that can kind of help us to direct our studying, whether we're doing broad or more in-depth information. Obviously, needing to know if it's a cumulative test or a unit test. You don't want to show up thinking it's just another unit test and have it be cumulative over the whole entire semester. So making sure we're studying the right information, whether it is just that specific unit that we covered, or if we need to review stuff from the whole semester. Thinking back to what the past tests in the class have been like is a good indicator on how to study for the next test. So, you know, were the past tests very specific information that I needed to know, or was it more, you know, applying the information to a new topic? Was it that I needed to analyze it and evaluate, say if I agreed or disagreed, or was it just that I needed to know what the definition for that specific term was? And then the last thing, what resources do I have to study with? So making sure that you have all of the resources readily available so that you can study as much information as you can. If you have your past tests, if your professor gave you a study guide, if not, checking and making your own study guide based off of your notes and whatever. Looking at your lecture notes, looking at your textbook, looking at videos online, using your professor and the wealth of information they have, asking your peers questions. Whatever it is, just making sure that you utilize as many resources as you can. All right, and the next, do you know how to prepare? So some different things. Like I said earlier, I think it's really great to set goals when we're talking about, you know, studying, especially when we're studying for finals, because we have so many different things that we need to do. So get all of your stuff together, make sure you have a plan of what's going to go on, and say, on Tuesday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., I'm going to study for this class, and studying is going to look like this, right? I'm going to make flashcards. I'm going to complete this assignment. I'm going to write the paper for this class, whatever that is for you. But by having goals, it helps with some motivation and direction. So when you sit down, you actually know what you're doing, and you have that motivation to accomplish it. And then at the end, when you've accomplished your goals, you can say, look, I did this thing. I feel accomplished. And now I have motivation to go on and do the next thing because I feel, you know, you have that forward momentum. Know your deadlines. One thing that I recommend that you start next semester, it's obviously a little late to do this for the semester, but I recommend the very beginning of the semester, sit down with all of the class syllabi and make a plan of what the semester looks like. Put all of the deadlines that you have for the semester, put all of your assignments, all your tests, all that good stuff, right? And look and see, so you can say, wow, look, this week in October is really busy, or I have a lot of free time during this week, so I should make sure to get started on these things ahead of time. And same thing goes for finals. You know, a couple weeks leading up to finals, we should be looking ahead and saying, I know I have assignments and tests at the same time that I need to prepare for. So I know that I need to get started ahead. I know I can squeeze in some time here and get some studying done ahead of time. Learn how you study. Studying is a very unique thing to every person. There's no like one scientifically proven way that works the best for everyone. So just kind of really thinking through, you know, when I try studying in this particular way, it doesn't work. Or when I do this thing, it works really well. So thinking about each of your learning activities that you're doing and really reflecting on those to say, this is how I learn. This is how I study best, right? I need to see videos. I need to hear someone describing it. I need to hear myself describing it, whatever works best for you. And then the last, and what I think is one of the most important things, don't play catch up. Get ahead as much as you can. I like to say that studying is a continual process that starts from the moment that we learn information. So we need to be studying throughout the whole semester and throughout the whole unit, because if we're waiting until the end, we're not going to have a good understanding of the information. We're just going to be able to memorize it for that test and then forget it all after, which maybe some classes, that's what we need to do. We don't care about them as much. that's up to you. But I definitely recommend taking time and really learning that information, because most of our classes that we don't care about do have a purpose, and that information is going to come back later. And it's going to be helpful for us to understand it now rather than try to catch up later. If you don't know how to study, that's totally fine. Try some different things, experiment, work around, see what works for you and what doesn't. The first one I want to talk about is spaced repetition. So I'm going to show you this chart here. There's this thing called the curve of forgetting. So if you look here, this first line that we see, if we learn information on our first day and we don't review it within 24 hours, we're likely to forget a good chunk of it. And if we don't review it even in just a few days, we've forgotten about half of that information. So spaced repetition is just saying we're going to study multiple times throughout the whole unit. So if we review that information the next day, we're able to close that gap of learning all the information that we had forgotten. And then as you see, when time goes on, the curve gets less and less steep. So we're forgetting less information because we're repeating it more each time. And then eventually we have to reteach ourselves less and less information as we're going on, and we have a better understanding of that information. So I definitely recommend throughout the whole entire unit, as much as you can, every day, every other day, whatever that looks like for you, reviewing that information. I definitely recommend summary sheets. So saying I have 5 pages of notes, I'm going to condense it down to 1 page of notes. I'm going to critically think about the information on these pages, and I'm just going to write down what's the most important. I'm going to make connections between the information. I'm going to think critically and analyze it. I'm going to evaluate it, whatever that looks like for you and helps you to understand it better. So spaced repetition, definitely recommend. Next one is flashcards. I have a love-hate relationship with flashcards. I think that they are really helpful, but they're helpful getting us to memorize information. So making sure that we're still pushing ourselves to critically think about the information, and that we're still doing something more than just saying it back word for word, because that's not always going to be helpful. Also making sure that we hold ourselves accountable. I, in college, did flashcards, and I would say, I'd be going through and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I know this, whatever, I know this, right? And then I'd get to test time and I'd be like, wow, I know none of the information that I thought that I knew. So making sure that you're holding yourself accountable, saying the information out loud, writing it down again, whatever that looks like for you, but actually holding yourself accountable to restate the information that's on your flashcards so that you are testing yourself. The next is teaching someone else. So one of the things that they say is if you have a good understanding of something, you'll be able to teach it to someone else. If we try teaching it to someone else and we're realizing, I don't really know what this means, or I don't know how to describe this, that is going to be a good indicator that we need to go back and review that information again. So if you are lucky enough to have someone who wants to listen to you teach that information again, that's awesome. If not, just restating it in the mirror, talking to a wall, whatever that looks like for you, whatever way that you can try to talk through the information. Watching videos can be really helpful. YouTube is a really, really great resource, and being able to find some videos that relate to whatever topic it is that you're studying can be beneficial to help you get another perspective, to help you see it and visualize it instead of just reading words about it. Depending on what your learning style is, if you are a visual learner or an auditory learner, videos are really great for that kind of stuff. Or making your own video, which can sound really cheesy and might be super awkward to watch yourself and record yourself. But just again, talking through that information and saying, this is what this is, it's what it means. And then you can listen back to it later, or you can watch it later so that you can see if you still understand the information. And then the last recommendation is studying while you work out. So there's a lot of studies that tell us that movement and adding some sort of exercise in when you're studying can help you remember. Getting your body moving is a good way to expel that extra energy that you have, and can help you focus more on your task at hand for whatever you're studying as well. One not helpful study strategy is cramming. So do not cram unless you absolutely have to. Cramming makes you familiar with information. It does not help you learn it, right? So cramming is helping us to memorize it, and then we're gonna perform for the test, and then the information is gone. There's a lot of studies that show us too that if we're staying up all night and we're sleep deprived, our brains are operating at the same capacity as if we were drunk. I don't think you would take a test drunk, so make sure that you're not taking a test really sleep deprived either. And then also our brains just need time to process, and sleep gives us that processing capacity. So if we are not giving our brain sleep because we're staying up all night cramming, then we're not going to be able to perform well because we did not process information. So don't cram unless you absolutely have to. I recognize that things happen, emergencies happen, procrastination happens. That's just the way it is. But make sure that we're trying to plan ahead as much as possible so that we don't have to cram. Finals can be easy. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but if we get organized and we prepare as much as we can ahead of time, and then we sit down and we have our study plan and we follow through with it, it can be a lot easier for us to succeed than if we're trying to throw stuff together haphazardly. So I know it sounds cheesy as well, but finals can be easy as long as we're putting in the time and effort ahead of time. All right, so now that I've talked, I want to have a discussion. Just think through some of these things and share what you're thinking. What strategies have worked for you so far for studying and preparing for finals? Which ones did not work? This is a safe space to share information of what works and what doesn't work. And then also thinking through, how do you manage your time and what resources do you have available to study with? So just think through some of these and you can either type some answers in the chat or respond out loud. I know we are a tiny group, so feel free to share. And if we move on quickly, that's okay too.
I was just gonna say, I think I need help in all of these areas. Seems like it's more so. I think the thing that stands out to me most is that I don't plan well enough how to approach a final, that I haven't necessarily had a way or known a way to systematically approach it, that it's just been more winging it. By the time it gets a week out, then I start to try to put everything together at that point, and then it turns into stress just trying to gather everything. And so even on top of ensuring that I know the information.
So do you feel like that's like a result of like not preparing enough ahead of time, or just not having like organization, or what do you think is kind of the leading cause for that?
I say more the latter, that I have the time. It's just knowing how to spend it effectively, so I end up wasting time, if that makes sense.
And that's why I love like setting goals for each of the study times that you set up, because I think that helps with having some sort of idea. I know I was guilty of it too when I was in college. All the time I'd be like, okay, I'm going to study, and then I'd sit down and be like, I don't actually know what I'm doing, right? Like I don't have a plan for this study time that I'm here. So then I'd sit there and play on my phone or play on my computer or something, right? But by kind of setting up time ahead of time to just think real quick, what are my goals for today? What are my goals for the week? How am I going to make forward movement on these specific assignments? I think that helps to make some sort of forward movement as well. I saw this graphic that is again kind of cheesy, but it's two different ladders, and one of them has really far steps in between it, and the person can't get from one step to the other, and then the other one has like a ton of tiny little steps, and then it's easy for them to get up, which I think is a great metaphor for setting small attainable goals, right? I have this really big paper that I have to write. If I just put my goal as writing my paper, that's almost unattainable. I'm not going to get it done in this one sitting, right? But if I say I'm going to split it up over this whole week, and this first day I'm just going to find my resources, next day I'm just going to write an outline, next day I'm just going to write my introduction, and then by doing those small goals, then I only have to spend a small amount of time, but I feel really accomplished when I get that one thing done, and then it's easier for me to do something the next day as well. So I would recommend whatever way you can set goals, and as far ahead in advance as you can as well, just to manage your time. I also am like, like wildly obsessed with managing my time. I put everything on my calendar. I always have everything that I need to get done for the day. I put like when I'm going to hang out with friends, when I'm going to do, when I'm going to go for a run and stuff like that. Almost to a fault that it's like too much, but I think it is important for me to have that scheduled out so that I know what I'm expecting for the day. And then if something comes up, I know when I can move stuff around and that I'll still have enough time to get everything done. So
I
definitely.
was looking for help with, I mean, even what you mentioned, just learning goals, knowing, sound funny, but just even knowing how to set goals for learning, or what you just mentioned with time management, if those are things that I've struggled with, where can you recommend any resources or where to go to
Yes,
try to get
absolutely.
help
So
with
one of
that?
the services that we have is learning consultations. So you can meet with myself or any of our other learning specialists one-on-one, and we can talk about setting goals for academic success. So I would definitely recommend doing that. I think that the SSAs are also a really great resource for that as well, of helping you think through like goals academically, time management, just life goals and everything that you want to set as well. So I think you have a ton of really awesome resources here. That if after we're done with this presentation, if we want to stop the recording and talk through that kind of stuff, I think that would be really great.
Yeah, I just anything in that direction is
Yeah.
greatly appreciated. Just because as you're going through your presentation, you listed the bullet points, and each one I can say that I would like to learn how to do. I just don't know how to do it that well.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely talk about all that kind of stuff.
And wanted to add, like what Casey was saying, like as a student success advocates, we can also help you like follow up, like reminders. And because sometimes one of the strategies that I really help me like work or study is having like study buddies or accountability buddy, or having someone that like reminds me, um, I'm gonna, with this goal, I'm gonna shoot this test to my SSA, and just, would you check on me next week that I finish this paper? Or you would check on me that I actually study for these 2 hours for this class. So that way you can have like a way to be like have accountability. And another resource I really love, like I love the Learning Center, is that we have like the Learning Center has tutors for pretty much almost all the popular subjects at the U. And it really helps to kind of schedule something and help you like navigate the information and the material and study. And if you have questions, they can help you with that too. So, and also that helps you be accountable on the study too. So like I have my appointment on Sunday or Saturday or Friday. So I need to study a little bit and learn where I have questions to bring it to my tutor.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. So what are some ways that you can be prepared? So these are just some vague suggestions that we'll kind of talk through. First one is setting a schedule. So using Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, anything like that, blocking out our time to study. I think by visualizing those types of things, it helps us to remember, like, yes, I said I was going to study during this time, and this is now I need to go do it. Next one is variety. So I think a lot of times studying is boring. We'll be completely honest. We do the same things, or we don't know what we're doing, or we're just rereading our notes or something like that. So definitely trying some of those different things, doing summary sheets, doing our flashcards, exercising while we're doing it. Make a practice test, make an assignment for yourself, or share something with someone else in your class, whatever that looks like. Also go into a tutor. That's a great way to get someone to describe it to you in a different way, and help you through the information that you're not sure about. Treat yourself. I think it's really important to reward yourself for the work that you've done, because it helps us with that motivation for the next time that we're doing something, and also can help us with motivation in the moment, right? When I finish this assignment, I'm going to go get some ice cream. I'm going to watch an episode of Parks and Rec. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to go for a run, whatever that looks like for you. Finding some way that you can treat yourself so that you can say, job well done. I did a great job. I know that I made forward progress today. So therefore, here's my reward. Use professor's office hours. I don't know why this is so squishy, so I apologize. It says use those office hours. Professors are there for you. Sometimes they can sound scary, but most professors are super nice, and they're there to help. right? So making sure that you go in and ask them questions. If you don't know how the test is going to be set up, guess what? Your professor set up the test. They're a really great person to use as a resource for that. Make studying fun. You don't have to just sit there in silence and study. You can listen to non-distracting music. I recommend music without lyrics. That is what helps me so that I'm not singing along, because I sing along to every single song. So having anything without lyrics is helpful. Move around, dance while you study, record yourself reading your notes and listen to your notes while you go for a run. Stay, walk on a treadmill and have your notes in front of you and read your book. Whatever it is that gets you doing something that's not just sitting still. Especially in today's climate of having a pandemic and having to do everything from home. It can be really tedious to do the same thing all day, right? To just sit at your computer, to go to class, to do your homework, to study, to have fun and hang out with your friends on the computer too, right? So making sure that we're switching it up in some way so that our bodies are moving, we're doing something different, we're keeping our mind active. And the last thing is to remember to stay calm. Do as much as you can, but at the end of the day, recognize I did what I needed to do, right? If I didn't do what I needed to do, I need to forgive myself because I can't go back in time and change it. So I just need to stay calm. If you are super stressed when you're studying, your brain is focusing more on your stress than it is on the studying at hand. And we're not going to be able to fully commit our minds to think about the information. So making sure that we really are taking some time for ourselves, relaxing, staying as calm as we can, and then studying while also meeting our other needs as well. All right, so I'm going to talk real quick about the Learning Center services, and then Adam, we can talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about for the rest of the time. I think this is going to be really great. So I'm going to pull up the Learning Center website real quick just to show you where some resources are. We do have free tutoring. It's available to all University of Utah students, so I would definitely recommend trying this for as many classes as you can. And like Leslie was saying, we have tutoring for a lot of classes. So this is just some, not even all of them here. So definitely check it out. You can schedule an appointment online through our website. And then also I mentioned learning consultations. You can schedule those here as well. We probably don't have as many availabilities for those right now. But if there's anything that you need that we don't have, just shoot us an email, learningcenter@utah.edu, and we'll get you connected with that resource. Yeah, that's about the gist of everything. We have some other like tutorials and an FAQ in case you're having any issues scheduling an appointment, but you can also just reach out to us with any questions as well.